Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to episode 3 of the Cookie Jar podcast. I'm your host Tom and I'm joined by Sam Williams, our regular.
Hello. God, I love that music every time, Tom. It just gets me.
And Sir Bruce.
Hello, Sir Bruce.
Hello.
Sir Bruce is our soon-to-be regular but has decided he doesn't want to turn up so far.
Oh, I just don't like being addressed with the Knight of the Realm title that I've not, properly earned.
It's just that little regal quality that he comes in with. You know, when he walks in, I feel like I'd almost just put my hands behind my back and just take my cap off and just sort of bow my head ever so slightly. Welcome, Sir Bruce.
Sir Bruce Fizpatrick needs a slight introduction.
Hello.
He is current club champs of our distinguished golf club, and he has just won a very good accolade as the President's Putter.
Yes.
Welcome, Sir Bruce. So,
Thanks, mate.
do you want to give us a bit of a background? What is the President's Putter?
Yeah, sure. So the President's Putter is an annual match play event, which is played down in Rye every January, first week of Jan, just between the former Blues of Oxford and Cambridge. So it's it's a really fun social event. There's about 150, 160 people enter it, and you play. Well, if you get the whole way to the final, you end up playing sort of 7 rounds in about 4 days. In all sorts of weather, everyone there's we kind of play the game in a similar spirit, sort of good, competitive but quick golf, and somehow managed to emerge.
Some result.
And it's all scratch.
Some result.
Emerges winner.
I mean, I've got to
Match
take my hat off here to Bruce, and not just in the piss-taking
Thanks,
sense.
mate. That's very kind.
Sir Bruce, but genuinely, it's a hell of an achievement in golf. I mean, when you look at David Cannon,
Yes.
famous golfing photographer, you check it out. You've got Tiger there with the President's Cup week or two before, pictures of Lee Westwood winning in Abu Dhabi or whatever the week after, and then you got you sandwiched in between holding a little hickory
my ugly mug.
putter,
Yeah.
covered in a quarter zip and a filthy blazer. I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff, mate. So huge congrats. Tell us a bit about yourself for the benefit of our listeners around the world.
So I'm 24. I finished my Masters at Oxford last year, and I'm just starting my law conversion course down in London, just dragging out academia and studying for as long as I possibly
We've
can.
put you on the podcast grad scheme, though, haven't we, for the time being? We just
so
kept you
I'm
in sort of full-time employment.
on a bit of a retainer. But yeah, quite a competitive golfer. I like playing as much as I can, playing with these two choppers, playing foursomes, singles, whatever, at Blackwell and beyond. So hopefully cut the handicap a little bit this year and maybe playing some more competitive things.
What's your goal for this year?
My goal? I haven't really thought about it too much, actually. I'd like
Lies.
to...
Lies.
I actually only do process goals rather than outcome goals.
I'm only
because
looking at my inputs.
yeah.
Outputs will worry about
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, I would like to get to scratch this year, I think.
Club champ, successful defence.
That would be nice. That'd be a
Got
bonus.
some people nipping at your heels.
I've got this man across the sofa nipping at my heels, definitely. My little brother as well will probably be turning up, and he's been playing some good stuff recently at Blackwell. So, it's actually, we're getting a good, solid, competitive section, really, aren't we? at the club now?
definitely. It's nice. I mean, it's always,
Everyone's keen to improve.
and you're quite keen on your swing as well. Big swing enthusiast.
I am. Yeah, I try to be. Yeah, I think I...
Feel like
Probably
there's no
into
shortage of
my-
swing thoughts out there.
Well, there's a number of swing thoughts that's gotten better, but I'm definitely keen on, the technical side of things and learning about the golf swing.
Are you not concerned that having too many swing thoughts could slow your swing down?
Well, it's not.
So it
You don't
slows
want.
his
You don't
golf
want.
down. I don't know about
Oh,
slowing
here we
his
go.
swing down.
Here we go.
When he
Here
played
we
at
go. I knew
Rye,
the
7
compliments.
rounds was it in 4 days? How many
Mate,
was it? 7 rounds in 4 days.
7
Dan?
rounds in 4 days. But
I'm amazed you did that. Was it floodlit?
didn't get a bad time. Actually, I'll have you know, we played the front 9 in the final on Sunday afternoon in 1 hour and 15 minutes.
I haven't really got a comeback for that.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I did think...
I've played a
I
two-ball
thought-
with you on a Thursday afternoon, and I've taken an hour and 50 for 9 with you.
Yeah, you've been out there just,
I can only assume he just binned about 7 drives on that front 9 now.
Yeah, well, I knew the compliments he gave me early on weren't going to last, so yeah, it's definitely fully deserved.
And the
dishing.
the President's Putt is all match play?
It is, yes.
Scratch match play.
All match play.
How does that wrestle in your head with, I suppose, I don't know. I feel like I play a pretty big balance in terms of match play and stroke play golf. I think they're very, very different games.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, I think match play maybe plays into my hands a bit more in that I'll definitely have the odd meltdown high number, which isn't good for stroke play, obviously. But in match play, if you kind of can blow hot and cold and put up a few birdies and then play the rest of the holes pretty steadily and only have 1 or 2 sort of other on your card, then that stands you in pretty good stead. Whereas obviously stroke play, particularly sort of 36 holes in one day, that's I don't want to say you've got to be more defensive, but I feel like you've got to be maybe a bit more strategic, and you've got to really just try and limit the number of mistakes you make. But yeah, that's just my take on it.
And when you play match play, you keep it in your mind, I'm 2 up, I'm 1 up, and this is what situation.
Yeah.
Does it affect the way you play?
Yeah, I mean, I try not to play the man too much. Usually I think, if you can just play your game and keep an idea in the back of your head what you are like relative to par. That was the way I did it down in Rye a few weeks ago. But
for all the piss taking, I think there's a lot of truth in what you were saying earlier when we actually, we'll come into it later, we were playing a bit of golf together this afternoon, and I sort of said to you, how do you deal with that sort of putt stuff, because you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times over 7 rounds of match play golf, and you were like, well, do you know what, if I've got kind of the guy, if he's 35 feet away, he's got a birdie putt and I've got 6 foot for birdie, I'm just worrying about my own putt, I'm not thinking about the other guy, because if he knocks that putt in and I then miss mine, or even if I hole it for birdie, it still feels like a loss. So if you just kind of disregard that, it kind of puts you mentally in a better space, because you're just worrying about the things that you can control.
Yeah, and I think that's, hopefully if I can do that more regularly and I can get into that frame of mind more, that'll stand me in good stead, or stand me in better stead for stroke play competitions when I play them in the future, because as you say, like, I think you can make a huge error with match play if your opponent's 35 feet away and you've just sort of mentally written them off the hole, or maybe they've missed the green and you've just mentally written them off, and then they go and hole it. All of a sudden it's like, massive momentum swing, you can get very distracted and a bit kind of confused and discombobulated. So it's, I think in all formats it's good to just try and focus on the stuff you can control more, really. What do you reckon, Tom, after today's experience?
Today's experience for me didn't go particularly well. We played a format of 4-ball golf that my distinguished friend Sam is better at describing than I am, but it's called Wolf.
How did you find it, Tom? Was it enjoyable?
No, I lost a lot of money. I played okay golf. I played a level of golf that on an ordinary day wouldn't really lose me a lot of money, but
I mean, you played under your handicap, didn't you? 15
I played one
holes,
under my handicap through 15.
Times.
Played one under my handicap through 15 holes, and I walked off the course at 15. Not because I had a temper tantrum, but Bruce was taking so long to hit the ball that I just needed to get off the course.
I won you £2 back on that last hole.
He did. He really got you out of jail there.
Didn't I par that last
The house would be up for sale if it wasn't for Bruce.
Wolf, though, for our listeners,
what a format!
That is an excellent format.
But it's so hard to explain. It's like,
let's just strap in for 4 minutes of Sam describing.
Can we get like that sad music they put on like Radio 4 while I explain it?
You're not having any music, but I am going to switch the mic off to me and Bruce, so go.
No, don't. Keep it on, because it's good. But I remember going down and playing on a golf tour with a few boys. There's 4 of us. I played a bit of Wolf on a few months before. And I was like, guys, trust me, this is the game. This is so much fun. It's absolutely class. And then after about 5 minutes of me trying to ramble through the rules and explanations, you could just see them going, yes, we'll stick to 2-ball, I think. Anyway, the way this works, you number off randomly on the first tee. tee pegs, throw balls in the air, just however you want to do it. You have to assign people a number, 1, 2, 3 or 4. Let's say, for example, I'm 1, Bruce is 2, Tom, you're 3rd, and then let's pick a 4th guy, say Cal's here.
Or girl, we are very inclusive.
Of course we are, sorry. Your numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's the order you tee off in. So you always tee off in that order or some variant of that order. So what I mean by that is, hole 1, I'm 1. I would tee off first, and then the way Wolf works is you get to pick your partner on the tee. You can only pick your partner when they've hit their shot, after they've hit it, before the next person plays. So imagine I stick one down the middle, Bruce fans one out right, but it's not too bad. I've either got to pick him or not have him at all. Third person tees off, I can pick them or not pick them, but then by the time the 4th person's teed off, I've either got to have the 4th person or I go Wolf. If you go Wolf, you treble the stakes. So it's a money game. You play for a certain amount per unit, and then you treble the odds, because obviously you have to pay 3 people out rather than just one.
So when you're paying 50p a unit, which is what we did, losing £20 is quite impressive.
You got to lose every hole, basically.
And triple up the stakes on a few and lose them as well.
But it's so cool, isn't it? So what happens is you have that order on the first hole. I was the person who was first. Then on the second hole, I dropped to the back of the order.
Yeah.
And then 2, 3, 4 followed by 1. And then
Yeah.
the third hole, 3, 4 followed by 1 and 2, and it goes round. But the cool thing about the game, I don't know if you boys noticed, but you're on the tee and you're always thinking differently. It's like, what's the stroke index on this hole? Who's got a shot here? Okay, he's in play. Par 3s play really different to par 5s, par 4s, if it's a long hole. And it's just cool. You come off the tee, you're fist bumping with a different guy. Or unless you're a complete dickhead like Mills over here, you might go Wolf when you're 150 yards back up the middle of the fairway. You've got 3 guys sharpening their wedges around the green on 7. But it's just a cool format. But because you increase the stakes, so the first 4 you play for a unit per hole, second 4 holes you play for 2 units, then 3 units, and then till you finish the 16th hole you're playing 4 units. So quite quickly when holes are rolling up, you could have, like, before you know it, you've got like a £10 putt. If you've gone Wolf, you could have a £30 putt on your hands there.
I'm just going to throw in...
You could have a £12 putt on 14.
I'm just going to throw in a bit of
I did
defence.
have a £12 putt on 14.
Just burned the edge.
I'm just going to throw in some defence to myself. That 7th hole, that I shot the same as you and Tom, and if it wasn't for Bruce rolling in a 10-foot of a birdie, I think I would have been justified in calling my Wolf.
I mean, it's if.
I mean, it wasn't a good decision, but
And I was in a questionable place off the tee before you got up there and seen it. There was a
I
good
smoked it down the left, and he didn't go near picking me. Do you know why he didn't pick me?
because you short games.
No, because you were still yet to get on the tee box, and then when you fanned one out right, he thought, I'm going to look like the biggest chopper in the world if I pick Bruce from here. It just looks like I want a safe exit from the hole.
But it's interesting. It's because you get the psychology of, right, well, I was in the middle of the fairway, but it wasn't a good shot, and I was a ways back, and you guys were up. But I could have decided to half my losses, essentially. Bruce being in what I thought was in the bushes, and I could have been, you can take half this loss with me, but I decided not to do that and take all the loss on myself.
Which was pretty impressive.
And the thing is, you haven't got that long to make a decision if you've gone down to the last man and it's between taking them or going as your own, because as soon as people walk off the tee box, as soon as you walk off the tee box,
sometimes 5 minutes.
Sometimes we've got longer.
Sometimes we've got longer. Depends who's on the tee.
if you're reloading.
Great format though. The Americans play something called Wolf Hammer. We need to dig out the rules on this. It's like I think it's basically like Wolf, but on like steroids.
Right.
I think it just injects another level of gambling to it.
There's some good videos of Spieth playing a game similar to that, or it might even be that game actually. But yeah, having not played Wolf before prior to 2 weeks ago, I've got to say it's now my new favourite format for.
It's the go-to with the 4 ball.
Yeah, when you got a 4 ball on your hands, you want to make it a bit more interesting than 4 ball better ball, because that game can very quickly
better ball's good. I think if you've got same handicaps, or if
Yeah.
it's fairly balanced.
Yeah,
If you've got some,
but it can get very one-sided, can't it?
If you've got some fairly competent golfers, as long as all of you are steady, Russian Stableford's a good one.
Explain.
So Russian Stableford is you go in. It's a 4 ball game. We'll call the players, for argument's sake, Sir Bruce, Sam, Cal, and Tom, and you draw teams so there are pairs. So it could be me and Sam against Sir Bruce and Cal.
Right.
and you just play your own ball, Stableford. But the twist on it being that when you get to the end of the hole, you multiply the two scores together that you get in a hole. So the par.
So if I'm with you, Tom, I've got like 4 for 2, and you've made 3 for 3.
Yeah, we would get
2
six,
times 3 is
it's 6 points. So we get 6 points on the first hole.
But
you know,
if
and par,
you've made 3 for 3 and I've blobbed the hole and I've got no points,
zilcho.
Oh,
Yeah, it's,
painful.
Wow.
it's brutal. So
it
we've
gets silly.
So I've played in a Russian Stableford where we've played a par 5, the 8th at our home course, and 3 of the other 4 ball birdied. So there were 4 for 4s. So there was 4 times 4, which is one team got 16 points. Then the third person birdied, so that's another 4, and I blobbed.
who's your partner there?
So 16-point
It was Tom
deficit.
Levitt, yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
So yeah, the other team has gone up 16, and we've gone up 0.
Such a cool
Brutal,
format,
but
though.
you need to both of you need to be firing, otherwise it's a
You could walk off with about 12 points at the end of the end of a round.
And I think so. You know, a lot of golf is like this sort of am format where you've got the 2 from 4 to count,
Right.
the best 2 from 4, and I think there's so many little twists you can play on that. Like as long as you're willing to sort of put yourself out there a bit. Like for instance, it'd be good to play an am instead of the best 2, the worst 2 to score.
Yeah, worst ball actually is
Yeah.
quite, or bloodsome or something like
Is
that.
that what it's called? A
I
bloodsome?
think bloodsome's an American term, or it's the
The
term
worst
I've got
two.
from Tiger Woods PGA Tour 04 or something
I mean,
like
if
that.
you're having a bad day, you're going to feel like the biggest
But yeah,
chode
so you
in the group.
so you play you play greensome. So you obviously you all drive off, and instead of you picking which drive you're going to take, your opponents pick it. And obviously, if one of you's having a bad day with the big stick, then your oppo is just going to pick.
So we'd like to
whoever's
hear
in the
more
bun.
from our listeners on different formats.
I just love messing about
There's
with
so
new
many cool
formats.
things. It's like playing the snake.
Yeah.
There's all these cool things.
You can get
Snake.
really tied up in playing the same thing every time you go out on
Yeah.
the golf course, and it's
Play
just
the
nice
snake.
to mix things up.
What's the snake?
Snake's putting, isn't it?
It's a 3-stab, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The snake's a 3-putting.
Oh
So-
yeah,
so if
and
you-
that's usually just an add-on.
So this,
isn't it?
this rolls
It's an
up
add-on.
throughout the round. I forgot what I think it's the camels. That's the one in the sand. So last one to go in the sand picks up the bill. We could spend hours on this, but we're not going to
Yeah.
get through everything we want to talk about tonight, are we? But Wolf 100% the game. 4 rounds of 4. It gets you to 16 holes. If you are the unlucky guy like Tom Mills, you're 35 units in the hole after 16. You stand on the 17th tee. You then get to be the Wolfman for those next 2 holes, which means you get to pick the order on those 2 holes.
Not necessarily the last hole.
Well, okay, as long as the person whoever's last on those 2 holes individually, but you also get to pick your stake. So you've either got a shot at redemption, or you're going to significantly increase your losses.
Or you can take someone down swinging with you.
I've seen some
35.
broken men come off the course after Wolf.
Just put 35 bits on it and drag someone down.
Mills today being one of.
There's a sorry-looking man.
Thought we were going to have to
walking home.
reschedule this podcast, but
This kid's first birthday. I thought the whole thing was off.
So no, very, very good. But a lot has happened since the last pod.
yeah.
So
Nice.
the USGA and the R A have released a distance report.
Very
With a
big
bit
news
of,
indeed.
Yeah, with a bit of talk going around that. So the distance report obviously being that shock, they hit the ball too far.
How do you feel about it? What's your thoughts, Tom?
Well, I think if they dial it back, if they introduce, a ball that spins more or whatever they do, you're still going to have these dudes that are hitting the ball a lot further than some of the other guys. It's only the only thing it's going to preserve is the current course architecture, and I think if they implement a rule system for the pros that they don't implement for the amateurs, it's going to make the game far less relatable than it currently is. Like I'm watching, we're watching the Pebble Pro-Am at the moment, which is a course that I've played. And if they were playing it, and they were playing a different kind of sport that it just wouldn't make it relatable. It's interesting for me because I've played this course and I can kind of relate to what they're doing, and it looks nothing like what I
think
did.
Pebble's a great example of somewhere that's long. Yeah, like granted, they've shoved some tees right back. They've made holes bigger and bigger as the game's
And they've
gone
reduced
on.
pars on holes.
But the greens are small. Like it's got a lot more to defend against. You watch courses out there like a few weeks ago when they're playing at Torrey. Torrey Pine's like 7,700 yards. I mean, like... Your average golfer's not going to be able to play off the tips there. If they go and play there, they're not really playing the equivalent course to what the pros are. And I actually just think there's only so far you can go by lengthening the course. So I think it's really difficult to know what to do. Do you start to make changes in equipment? If so, how do you introduce changes to equipment for professionals and amateurs that affects them both in the way that you want to and get the right outcome? And then what do you do with courses? I mean, I don't know. Bruce, thoughts? You're a bomber.
Well, it's tough. I think, you guys...
Bruce hits his slappy drives 280. It's quite disgusting.
No, factually incorrect. I mean, you guys have hit the nail on the head there in terms of how do you... It doesn't seem the right thing to... This whole bifurcation that there is the buzzword at the moment in terms of separating the professional game from the amateur game. I don't really think it's feasible in golf because...
I think it's the worst thing they could do.
Yeah, one of the great things about our sport is you can say you can relate a bit more to the courses that the pros are playing. We can obviously go and play those courses. Golf being essentially you playing your ball against the golf course. You can kind of get a feel for just how good these guys are. And I think if you just for some reason decided to introduce a higher spinning ball for the pros but not for the AMs, I mean, how does that play out in top-level amateur events where those guys are essentially playing a circuit that's a breeding ground for professional golf? You're playing things like the English amateur or the British amateur, US amateur, that kind of stuff. Are those courses then going to have to be lengthened out to 7,500 yards or if not more? But then again, I do think the point they're making is essentially the correct one, which is we can't just keep going on lengthening golf courses. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't found an 8,000 yard golf course yet. I mean, the one at Torrey Pines 2 weeks ago was 7,700. Seems like run of the mill course at the moment on the US Tour 7.5, and that just doesn't seem like a sustainable.
Well, they're still shooting 15 under, and
yeah, and I think interestingly, like what isn't really being talked about is how we got to maybe bring back a bit more strategy to the game. I mean, from a few people I know who've gone and played some of the really cool US Open courses, USPGA courses out in America, like Bolter's Roll, the lower course there, being a case in point, that went through a phase of tiger proofing after Tiger came on the scene and just, marmalised these golf courses. They thought, well, we've got to make them longer, we've got to put a load more rough in. They got rid of a lot of the original like architectural principles that these brilliant architects had put in. And now, like a couple of years ago, members have finally got around saying, actually, that wasn't the right decision. The courses play worse for the ordinary membership as a result of it. And what we should do is just make it a bit more strategic, bring back some more short mown grass areas,
well,
give people a few more
maybe
options. And
Phil Mickelson's got a point where he comes out in the press recently and says, like, we need to give the athletes a bit more credit. We just are athletes and we're hitting the ball further than they used to.
Yeah, but maybe there's a bigger margin error. Is the margin for error too big now? I mean, is anyone really going to say like Jack Nicklaus back in the day? I mean, his legs were massive. The physical shape he was in a real physical specimen. Gary Player as well. Everyone knows about
Does Gary Player go in the gym? Does he like
to touch a shred of bacon? I know that.
I mean, those guys, like, I think they were very athletic back in the day. Arnold Palmer as well. I mean, they're all very, very strong golfers. And yeah, things have moved on now. Sure, you've got guys who would maybe play in the NBA or the NFL in another life who are turning to golf, which is great. But maybe the fact that they're playing a ball that just spins no amount compared to the old sort of Bellata.
But are we saying that back in the day that Nicklaus and Palmer were knocking drives up there, and your average golfer like you or I we're watching him going, yeah, I can hit the ball that far.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever the case.
Remember, like, years and years, like, we're going back sort of 40, 50 years here, you used to have the smaller ball, and the smaller ball used to go significantly further than anything we're playing with now. So you can get, like, there's a track up in Cheshire Way called Delamere Forest. I think it's about the 8th. Par 4, it's like sort of 410, something like that. Elevated tee, dog leg left, a sort of fairway runs round onto the fairway. You go to the back tee there, and there's a little plaque there from where a member stuck it on the green back in sort of like 78 or whatever, and you're like, holy fuck, that's
That is
a
insane.
serious shot. Because, I mean, you can hit your best drive with wind off the right shoulder. You could stand there all day, Bruce, and you wouldn't get near it.
410.
So clearly they had a situation back then with the ball that they needed to correct. But I think the real tough question for, the USGA, the R&A, the rest of the game to solve here is, how do you make changes that rein the distance back? Because I think we all agree that needs to happen. But in a way that means your amateur golfers at all levels and professionals still play on a level footing in terms of the equipment. I wouldn't want to see any different standards there. And I think you're spot on. I think you've got to bring back some, bring more strategy into golf holes.
Yeah.
Make, slick runoff, slopey greens, smaller greens, huge risk reward shots on every.
Well,
that's where it starts to come
another
in.
thing about these, especially these PGA courses, is and it's nothing like links golf, but the bunkers they play over there, they almost aim for them. It's like, well, greenside bunkers, that's fine. It's no issue.
Yeah.
If you had a grass trap or something that was really, tight mown, proper grass bunker, they are so hard to play off. And you've seen people, they call them false fronts, don't they? Where they're just there and they're just chipping and watching the ball come back to their feet. And for these boys, it's so much harder to play that shot than it is just to splash out a 15-yard bunker shot. It's just no biggie for them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're watching Pebble Beach now, aren't we? Watching the second round of the AT&T there, and that's a course that has the smallest greens on tour, maybe just slightly above in the rankings. Harbour Town, which also has really small greens, and they obviously played the US Open here, which Gary Woodland won in 2019, and the course then was just over 7,000 yards, which is significantly shorter than the average tour course. And the winning score was 12, 13 under, so they didn't completely, tear it apart by any stretch. And it just goes to show you, when you've got smaller greens, you've got a few more options in terms of clubs to hit off the tee. Augusta's another course where it's maybe a bit more generous off the tee, unless you want to really take on some pins, in which case you've got to put it in the right spots. I think Tiger was saying in a promotional video a while back that you can't miss greens at Augusta pin high, because although the grass and the lies are all so tightly mown, there's not much thick rough around the greens, the slopes are so severe that you're just not going to be able to get it up and down. Whereas, I mean, I get the impression, I've not played courses like, Torrey Pines and some of these other ones, Erin Hills, where they're like, north of 7,600, 7,700 yards, but I imagine they'd probably be quite big, flat greens, which, I mean, the guys
You can tell
nowadays,
they're huge, because when they're building a course that big, they've got to also bear in mind that the amateur's playing, and therefore, how can you possibly have tricked up small greens on a 7,700 yard course?
Yeah.
Not even the pros are going to get round. And you're right, you look at that Harbour Town, last year the wind whipped up for a few days, no one was shooting under par.
Yeah.
And that's not a long course. Like, they're flicking it into corners, they're having to shape shots around trees, they're thinking about it. And it's not just the batch, right? The ball's what's making all the difference.
Oh, it's the ball, yeah. I mean, there's quite a few guys on YouTube, aren't there, who test out, a driver from 2019 with a driver from 2009 or 1999 or 1989. And I think the biggest difference there, although there's maybe not too much of a difference in terms of the driver, how far it goes, maybe it's 15, 20 yards. If you were to take a ball from 89 and a driver from 89 and then put that against a ball and a driver from 2019, there'd be a significant difference there.
The difference is as well, these boys are finding the middle of the bat, which is what most amateurs don't do.
So, in a way, it's actually giving more of an advantage to the pros, to the pros than the AMs, because the pros are going to hit it out of the centre of the face more often. They're going to have that.
Not more forgiving than the amateurs, you don't think? You don't think having a bigger face there?
Well, I think
bigger heads is like allowing the amateur to get away with more off the tee.
But I think for a lot of amateurs, playing with more spin is probably a good thing. I mean, it would be interesting to see how it would affect the professional game if you all of a sudden reduce the size of the driver heads and you had a ball that spun a lot more. Because people talk about guys like Nicholas and Greg Norman, who were just known as excellent drivers of the golf ball because they were so precise with like how centered their contact was. Whereas, if you hit it out if you hit it off centre with an old driver and a spinny ball, you get that wrong side of what's now, as a result of radar and TrackMan and knowing a bit more about it, you get the wrong side of the spin loft curve, and so
and it all just
you'd have-
exaggerates the issue,
so
right?
you'd have so much spin on it from an off-centered hit. It's very hard to then keep it on the fairway. So I think attacking it through the ball and maybe a couple of the driver heads would go a long way. I don't know how much irons have moved on.
The R and A
realistically.
and the USPGA, it's lose-lose, isn't it?
I think it's hard.
The amateurs
the
are
game
going
doesn't
to
like
hate
change
it. The pros are going to hate it. It's going to
Do you
take so
think-
long for it to
Sir
embed.
Bruce is probably too young to remember the Bellata. So despite his title of Sir Bruce,
He's a relatively fresh nod.
he's probably never seen a Bellata. Those things were like knocking a knob of butter around the golf
Really?
course. Yeah, like seriously. I mean, I've hit chips today that would have cut a Bellata in half.
Really? You'd hit one bunker shot and you'd have to put a new ball
Seriously,
in play
you
on the
have to
green.
put a new one. They're
'Cause
literally
you
like
cut
a
the
stick of
cover
rock.
up.
Well, back in the day, the Bellata, there was no one-ball rule.
Yeah, that's right. You could change mid-hole.
Mid-hole, yeah.
Yeah.
You could knock
You
off
could
with
elect
you could
to
knock
change.
off with a top flight and then drop a Bridgestone in for your approach shot. or
I think
whatever.
that'd be interesting. I think maybe we should do that. I think we should order some Bellatas online, go on eBay, try and order
Give
a
it a
dozen
go.
of like the sort of, I don't know, 1992 Titleist Bellata, Compression 90, whatever they were, and just start hitting them. And guarantee you, into any wind, you hit any mid-iron, the thing's going to balloon up. It's going to start off at knee height.
I do not
and
need
go
more spin.
vertical.
I mean, I saw.
I know you don't need any
couple of
more
mates-
spin. You're the one that says in the middle of the air, "Watch this."
That was one time.
He got backspin on 7 today from 110 yards. I've never seen him smile so much in all his life.
I just wasn't aware that I was even capable of doing backspin. I know I can hook a ball. I know I can slice a ball.
Ripping the cover off the ball, just loving it mid-flight. I mean, a couple of friends of mine actually played with hickories up at the old course just before they left St Andrews, and they're both like good sort of scratch +1 golfers. And watching them use a modern ball with hickory clubs was hilarious because they could not get the ball in the air or just keep it anywhere near sort of in play. And I wonder whether if you had a Bellata, it'd be a bit more.
I guarantee
a bit
you I would
easier.
snap a hickory.
Do you think?
I'd fat it, and that would be the end of that.
They're pretty rugged things. It's not just like a little bit of, whippy bit of bamboo or balsa wood or something like that.
No, I do not. Just give me steel.
We should test that though. I think Sam ordered some Bellatas off eBay.
We also need
I've
to
got an
do,
old Jack Nicklaus 1980, persimmon
We've got a
driver
Slazenger
from my
2-iron
granddad.
here
We
that's
also
making me
need to
feel
take
like
that
being
2-iron
sick.
out.
And we'll give it a go. I think we should give that a go.
I think we should give that little vlog for the for the Instagram story and get
Yeah.
that 2-iron over
Some
the
of our
lake on
listeners
9.
can, yeah, they'll enjoy that.
But I think, by and large, we're all on the same page saying that, the R and A and the USGA's moves to curb distance are probably quite well intentioned.
It's the right thing.
For amateur golfers, in as far as, we don't. Blackwell, for instance, can't get any longer as a golf course because the external boundaries of the course is such
Physically
that
can't
we
do it.
literally can't make it any longer. And I imagine there are a lot of courses, all over the world where members would feel the same. They're like they just be like, it would be so disappointing if our golf course became obsolete for
And some of
good
the most
players.
enjoyable tracks I've played have been, par 69s, par 70s,
Yeah.
things that are, off the backs playing 6,500 yards.
Yeah,
That's plenty.
yeah.
Actually, if you've got small greens, something that makes you think on the tee, somewhere where you've got to think about your approach shot, where you're going to try and put it, that's much more enjoyable than standing there and thinking I've just got to open my shoulders on the next
I've
drive.
got to hit drive it
I've got
12
to jump
times.
on this. I've got to hit another 4-iron.
Well, we talked last week about our love of winter golf, and I played our home track, and they decided to put it back off the tips, and I think it got to about the fifth hole before I had an iron in my hand.
Really?
And that's on a relatively small track in the winter, I know, but when these tracks are playing so long, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's driver, 3-wood, driver, driver,
I
rescue.
just find it dull.
It's just not.
And that's where the term championship golf course, I just hate that term.
Is that plus
If someone
7,000?
says,
Is that what it means?
I always thought a championship golf course is I don't know.
I thought it was plus
Generally
7,000.
refer, any championship golf course is, in my head then, 7,000 yards, 72 par. It's usually
Boring as sin.
It's usually owned by a large hotel group or the hotel chain. It's usually got water features that are invisibility
Fountains.
of the car park. Yeah, somewhere that's like spouting a bit of water up, into the air. Absolute mediocrity in my experience. So long may short kind of crafted golf courses continue. And actually, I think, we'd be really interested from our listeners, I think, to hear about, kind of any quirky layouts you guys have played. I think,
and if you want to throw any invites our way, we'll take an invite. If you want to invite Sir Bruce to see what he's got to offer, he can show you how to hit one.
Don't know about that.
So where we're at is Pebble Beach. 3 tracks played out there. I think it's going to be interesting to see who brings it in this weekend.
What's your opinion on this Pro-Am? Like,
I like it. I like the Pro-Am side. For me, there's not enough seeing the amateurs play. I'd be really interested in seeing some of the kind of low handicappers. You got people out there like Tony Romo, who played in a PGA event last year.
He's +2, I think.
Yeah, he got an exemption.
Isn't the Pro-Am
I think the AT&T's quite a cool format. I mean, the closest thing we have over in Europe is probably the Dunhill up in St Andrews.
That's a classy tournament. Every
October, and that's just great fun to watch and go and walk around as well, because no one takes it too seriously. It's just, it's great that it's still a prestigious professional event, but also you get, celebrities from other walks of life and other really decent amateur golfers who get to play in that event. So I think, it's good. It's good for our sport to have some variety and mix it up a bit. You don't want to.
I think Sky could offer us a touch more with just showing some shanks and just give us a bit of hope.
Yeah.
But I would just want to see people like Wahlberg, people like Justin Timberlake play a few holes. I'd want to kind of get into their round. So where we have the featured groups and you're watching Harold Varner III, and he had a great game yesterday, 5 under, well played. It's fantastic to see. But at the same rate, I'd really like to get into seeing Justin Timberlake go round.
Is he playing there this week?
I think he does, doesn't he?
Do you think Bill Murray's there?
He's there every year. He lives literally on the course.
Well, he does the Dunhill. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does the Dunhill in this religiously, because they're probably the only 2 Pro-Am events, really. And they're at 2 fantastic venues. I mean, to play St Andrews, Kingsbarns, Carnoustie, and then Pebble, Spyglass, Monterey. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that, does it?
How would you feel if you were like, I don't know? So Victor Perez went up at St Andrews, didn't he, last year?
Practiced on the range next to him a couple of weeks ago. Actually,
no way.
Yeah.
He's actually in the side.
Does he strike the ball better than you?
He's he lives in Dundee.
How can he answer that question?
If
he says no, he's arrogant. If he says yes, he's probably lying.
Get him on a windy day playing Wolf at Blackwell, and I think.
He'll come unstuck.
I think I'd have him.
But how would you feel in a Pro-Am rather? You got Victor Perez, who's coming in. I think that was his first major victory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like first proper sort of European tour win.
Serious victory. Can we not confuse the
terminology,
please?
Can I just check?
First significant win of his career, and you're the amateur that's there paying like 50 grand or whatever for a seat for the weekend. And you've got to try and get in and just stay out of the guy's way, even though he's your partner.
Just get him across the line.
You're just going to feel proper awkward, aren't you?
Do you reckon he's giving it? Victor, do you need a read on this? Fuck off.
Yeah.
I think it's right edge here.
It's going from the left.
Yeah. What club do you fancy hitting into 17?
I'm taking my 4-iron. What are you taking? I'm taking a wedge. Just leave me alone.
Just leave me to it.
I'm dialed in here.
But no, I think it's a cool tournament. Victor Hovland, that's who my money's on this weekend, although he's yet to play Pebble because obviously they've got Monterey and Spyglass.
Where's he sitting at the moment?
I think he's about...
Noren's doing quite well. I mean, Noren's looking pretty good. He's had a quiet couple of years, hasn't he?
Noren looks like he could stick one off the hosel into the drink on 7.
No, mate, he's got that path going so far left and he's attacking the ball so steeply. There's no way he's catching one anywhere near the hosel.
Well, I don't know.
He's just... pellet compressor.
You love a good swing, don't you, Sir Bruce?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't love it?
Radial All Nation.
Dustin Johnson.
Radial All Nation.
Dustin Johnson was on the Sky.
Radial and Ulnar.
Dustin Johnson was on the Sky Zone, that bit where they hit balls and stuff.
Yeah.
And Claude Harmon's over the top of him, and he's going like, so this is before the Open. He's like, Dustin, just knock one out there, 300. And Dustin's like, okay. So he just lets it belts one like really high little fade, and he's like, "Okay, just imagine it's really windy. Knock a little low one up there for us. What adjustments are you gonna make to hit the low one?"
I remember this.
And he goes, "I just stand closer to it. I don't know why that does anything, but
Yeah, they
what I do.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to stand a bit closer. They're like, why are you doing that? He's like, I don't know.
I should lower. So the best Dustin chat I've ever seen was, do you remember a few years ago before the Masters, he fell down the stairs, he had to pull out the tournament, right?
Yeah, it wasn't the only thing he was pulling out of that time.
Dustin's getting slammed this week.
He is.
We're going to
Apologies.
have his agents on the phone to us, yeah. So, anyway, the year later, you know the par 3 thing, they've got the kids there and the wives and they're all going round. So they're sort of interviewing him on between like, I think it's like 8 or 9 on the par 3 tournament. And I can't remember, it's like Sarah Sturck or something like that. She's like, so interviewing Dustin and going, so I presume you're in a bungalow this year then, Dustin, you know, just to avoid any sort of issues with steps. You know, proper nice British sarcasm. And he's just full on reply, just goes, no, I'm okay with houses usually. That was just a one-off. I'm usually got no problem with stairs.
I've got stairs in my own home, and I'm usually okay with those.
Come on.
Just totally
How the hell have you got?
right over the top of his head.
I mean, how's he chatted her up?
Hi,
know
I'm
that
Dustin
she's-
Johnson, millionaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you see a multi-millionaire Andy Murray, isn't it?
But we're
I don't know if there's many riveting philosophical conversations going on in that household. Similar story actually. Butch and maybe it's Claude it's Butch actually on a podcast was saying that obviously a few years ago, you know, Dustin was still renowned as like best driver in the world, or one of the best drivers in the world, up there with McIlroy. You know, very just good all-around game, but his wedge play was definitely letting him down. So I think Butch and Claude just said, buy a TrackMan, bring it down to the range at Floridian next time we're there meeting for a lesson, and we'll just, you know, we'll just decide that you've got to hit certain numbers, and it's fairly straightforward, and you'll just tidy up your wedge play that way. So anyway, brings his TrackMan down, sets it up with his brother Austin. Claude and Butch turn up. They're like, right, okay, have you got the TrackMan working, Dusty? He says, no, it won't turn on. They're like, have you charged it? He's like, no. They're like, you obviously got to charge it, haven't you? He's like, okay, is there a plug socket round it? And they're like, we're on a grass range. what are you expecting?
Dustin's had a hard time this pod.
Well,
If you're listening to this,
speaking
Dustin,
of,
I love you.
Yeah, and if you want to come on, like, we can definitely make space.
Yeah, and we'll be a lot nicer in person.
Speaking of great drivers, Dustin, and you mentioned Rory a moment ago, we don't have much longer left in the pod. We need to wrap up our picks for the first major of the year. We're gonna put our stakes down early.
Ooh. Sam, you were chatting a bit about Leishman earlier. We're out there playing
Can we
Wolf.
just revisit Leishman's numbers?
So Sam, as we were out playing Wolf, we were having a chat about, you know, how's everyone looking going into the season. Augusta really not that far away in the grand scheme of things, and Sam, just way out of left field, has pulled Mark Leishman
Great player.
out of the hat.
Great lad.
player, obviously
Great
won
lad.
a couple of years ago. Just
Won the other week at
Yeah.
Torrey. So for me, hit the
And
ball
seems
like a
like
bit
a
of a
lovely
chopper
bloke.
on the last day.
Yeah.
Still won, brought it in, came from way behind.
Seems like a
Okay.
quality bloke as well.
Masters performance.
come on the pod.
Yeah,
Mark.
so look, it's been a tricky one for him in the Masters. Last year finished 9th. 2017 T43. 2016 missed cut, didn't qualify in 15, missed cut 2014. But he came T4 in 2013, didn't qualify 12 or 11, and then was cut in 2010. So, yeah, I mean, on paper, doesn't feel like it sets up to his eye.
But you never know.
I think he's got the game for it. I think he's just an all-rounder. He's just a solid golfer. And for me, you know, Masters winners tend to be people who've been around on tour for a little bit as well. You know, they're not won by rookies. You know, your Morikawa is probably going to go and win this now because, you know, I mean, Christ.
Curse of the commentator.
My record on picking this is clearly not good. One pick and Finau just blew it from nowhere. So,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we'll come on to Webb in a minute. But, yeah, Leishman was there. I really fancy Koepka for a major this year.
What about Rambo?
It's got to be done, hasn't it?
Third in the world.
Just looks unreal.
Looking pretty consistent.
He's getting it done as well when he needs to as well, coming down the straight, you know, but he doesn't look like he flaps. I mean, we talked a bit about Rahm last week and his kind of just outrageous decisions to play shots out of bunkers.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. You talking about him trying to hit a 260-yard 5-iron off a hanging light in a bunker.
Lost his shit with
over
his caddy
water.
after. His caddy came up
His
to him.
caddy just went out there and said, "Hey John, I don't think that's a good idea.
John,
Yeah.
this doesn't seem like the play. It's a
I'm going to play
250-yard
it."
shot.
He's not Austrian, but he said
No, I
that.
was just going to say it's from Zimbabwe or something. It's a
Thick Bavarian
250-yard
accent.
bunker shot, hanging lie, feet above ball. He's got to hook it right to left, round trees, over
No,
water.
mate, ball below the feet.
And he had like a
I'm sure.
3-shot
Yeah,
lead
same
or something
thing.
stupid. Like it was like his to lose really at the time.
Yeah.
He just played his way out the tournament. And then, because his caddy had said to him, it just doesn't feel like the play to me, he then said, that was his caddy's fault at the end. He was like, you put that in my mind, you shouldn't have said that. I was like,
Right, come on, pick. Let's go. I'm going Rory. Line in the sand. He's gonna do it. He's mature.
I think Tiger actually could do it again back to back. You never know.
Favourite in Vegas.
I mean, he's changed a couple of things in his swing this year, and from the few golf instructors I follow on Instagram, who are quite well regarded, they all seem to say really positive changes he's making. Looks like he's going to be able to manage the sort of back or health issues a little bit better with these changes. And you look at Torrey Pines. That's a course that just does not set up well for him when it's 7,700 yards, pretty long when you're playing it in January. Got to hit driver off every tee, and it's not wide open by any stretch. And he's placed top 10 in his first event back. I think there's some good signs.
So just like his golf swings, Sir Bruce has taken ages to do that.
Oh,
Your
here we go.
I think I don't know. I think it's going to be an exciting 2020, isn't it? I think it's looking good. There's still stuff to run before we get into the Masters and into the major season.
Come on,
so
put your pick in.
I've already said Leishman. I'm going to stand
Leishman,
by
okay,
it,
you
as
stand by it.
poor a pick as it is. So where are we? We looked last week. We had Finau coming down the stretch. Didn't happen for him.
You both said he was going to probably get it done.
I
but
really wanted
hasn't
Tony
aged
to
well.
do it.
So the gasser did, didn't he? We talked about that.
I can always go back and edit that pod and just say that we picked Webb. We
could
knew it was
insert
Webb.
that, couldn't we? But that would be disingenuous, I think, to our listeners. But the guy's playing great golf. So
And we've got to finish the Pro-Am, and then we're ready for next week.
Riviera next week, Tigers event, the Genesis.
Yeah. Good
Classic
to see him
golf
back
course,
after
that. Looks
a
like
few
a
weeks
very
off.
classic
Yeah,
place, Riviera.
yeah. I've heard great things about it. Is it LA?
Yeah,
Sort of way,
yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And we're back for the WGC then in Mexico, February 20th.
Mexico, that'd be a big one.
Mexico.
Yeah.
So you've heard it all. We've heard about Wolf. We've talked about it on tour.
And
We've
that's
put the game to rights. So guys, have a good week. Go
it from
low.
us.
Tear it up this weekend on the course.
And we'll see you next
Hear
time.
from you all soon.
Watch this.